aliens. You can always make yours smaller and draw like a little army if you would like. They typically travel in groups of at least 3, but they can get a lot more than that. And we're only drawing his head shape, but again, feel free to leave room if you want to add more detail. I'm adding a bunch of these ovals, kind of looks like a potato, like a bread roll. And we're then going to divide this in half. So we're going to place a vertical line, goes down the middle. The next line here is actually going to be a rainbow. We're going to place a rainbow that starts about halfway through the oval and it goes up toward the top, like 1/4 of the oval itself. And this is going to help us find some of those details later on, including their eyes, which is going to be really important. But at this point, we're not going to start with the face. We're actually going to start by right next to their head. We're going to start by giving them their ears. Their ears are very pointy, and we're going to start this off with a diagonal line going from the rainbow up to above the oval. I'm going to make sure these ears are really tall, so at least a little bit above the oval itself. And we're going to bring this down with an upside down candy cane to add the bottom, including the earlobe there. So it's just kind of like a C curve turning into a U. And that's going to give us those big pointy ears, so they look kind of like an elf or like a fae, is what you're going for. And these ears are actually the first part of our drawing that's not going to change. It's going to remain permanent. So at this point, we're not adding anything new. We're just going back and we're darkening in the ears themselves. And as we do this, you're going to notice that all the light lines will then fade into the background, which is our goal. So if you didn't like something, like let's say you just didn't like that oval, that's okay. It's already going to start to disappear as we darken in these shapes here on the sides. And you're going to see this throughout the entire drawing. So if you don't like something, leave it light so it can simply fade away. The inside of the ear is going to be very simple. Now, ears typically can be very complicated, but because these are toys, their ears are not very close to anatomy, like right there, not super correct. So instead, we're going to simplify the detail by adding the exact same candy cane shape that we made on the inside, but it's just going to go the opposite direction, just to add us some very simple detail. So it's going to be another upside down candy cane, curving up, which we can darken it as well. These characters are in fact toys, and they live in like a certain arcade machine. Do you know what kind that is? A claw machine. Yeah, exactly, because they love the claw. They always talk about it, right? They'll say that, ooh, the claw, right? Exactly. And because of that, they wanted to make sure that this like really fit with their surroundings, because what restaurant do they live in? Pizza Planet. Yeah, exactly. But it wasn't originally going to be Pizza Planet in the very beginning. Now, as I tell you about that, we're going to darken in the bottom of the oval. So just following that like big U here going from ear to ear. So before they settled on Pizza Planet, the restaurant that they were going to go to in Toy Story was actually going to be a pizza mini golf place called Pizza Putt. And they really liked this idea. They thought it was really fun. And it still did have a claw machine in it. However, it was a little bit different. For example, there wasn't any arcade games really around. This claw machine was there, but rather than being little aliens, they were actually going to be keychains that were pizzas with sunglasses. So that was going to be the original idea, which sounds cool, right? But I don't think it would have sold as much merchandise. Considering how popular these characters are, I just don't know if the pizzas would quite hit. We're now going to go below this, and we're going to add the collar to their outfit, which is a C curve on each side and a U in the middle. Pretty much the same shape we just did there. We're just extending this down to add a tiny bit of their outfit, which you can also shade in if you would like. Shading is never required, so if you feel like you're running behind or you just don't want to add it, feel free to leave it out. But it will show that it's more of a purple rather than the green that we see on their skin. Now, when they decided to change this, the reason they did so was because they were looking for Andy's interests. So what was his new toy at that time? Buzz Lightyear. Therefore, he was really into space, right? So they were thinking, why would Andy want to go to mini golf when he could do something space related? So they decided to change Pizza Putt over to Pizza Planet, and they made it more of an arcade because at that time, back in like the 90s, Chuck E. Cheese was really popular. So they inspired it a lot off of like that restaurant, and really just building up the one that we know today. And that's when these aliens switched over, and I do think it was really wise. Like, truly, I love Pizza Planet, so I'm glad that they made that change. Now that we have the collar, we're going to move up and we're going to start to build up the rest of their face. Starting first with the eyes. And how many eyes do they have? 3. So we're going to start in the middle, this center one here, big U. We're going to place these U's on the sides as well. Since they have those 3 eyes, we're starting first with the U shape, but to extend these out, we're going to add a rainbow. And you want to make sure that all of these eyes are leaving the oval so that it gives them this almost like bug eye kind of look. And that's what we're going for there. We're then just going to go around darkening that in as well as placing his pupils on the inside. Now the pupils can actually be whatever shape you would like. Throughout the film, what we see are circles. However, if you want to put hearts in the eyes, you want to put stars, you want to put planets, it's still going to look like them. So feel free to add a little bit of extra credit. You can even do something like going back to their story, like who adopted these characters? The Potato Heads. Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head adopted them because they saved their lives, right? And they're eternally grateful. So you can add like Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head in there, or you can put like his mustache or something. I feel like it'd be really interesting to have Mr. Potato Head and like Mrs. as parents because they can change their appearance like every single day. So I feel like it's got to keep you, on edge a little bit, right? Like you can come home looking completely different today. I'm just going to keep the classic circles on the inside, placing those and shading those in entirely. Now, the Pizza Planet itself was actually not the only change that was made to this film. There were a ton of changes because this was Pixar's very first movie. So when they were making Toy Story, they wanted it to be perfect. So rather than just sticking with the first version, they were going through and they were adding many different options. Now, one of the big things that changed was actually the name of the film. Because in the very beginning, it wasn't called Toy Story. It was actually called You Are a Toy. And very long title, but that's, if you don't remember, that's what Woody kept saying to Buzz, right? You are a toy. And they really liked that idea. However, they were worried that it was too long and it would end up that people would end up just changing the name to something shorter. So they would call it That Toy Thing. That's not what they wanted. They wanted good branding. So they did decide to change it to Toy Story. Plus, this allowed them to talk about other toys rather than just Woody and Buzz. Because even though they are the main characters of the film, there are many toys, and they didn't want to revolve it entirely around them. So I gave them some more options. Now I locked in the top of the head, just going around the eyes there. And then we're going to move up, and we're going to add something that allows them to communicate. What do you think that is? The antenna, exactly. And this antenna is 2 curves. They get a little closer together until you add a circle on the top. And this allows them to communicate. They actually are hive mind characters, meaning that they can actually communicate through their thoughts, and this is why they talk in unison. So that's why they all say the claw, like at the same exact time, right? Or you have been chosen. Like they all talk at the same point because of that antenna there. There's another thing that they do in unison as well, and it's like a very specific noise. Do you want to take a guess? Ooh, yeah, exactly. We're going to give them this little ooh, and we're going to do that by now moving down to their last feature, which is their mouth. Now, their mouth, in order to give them this ooh look, we're going to start first with a rainbow. Now, this rainbow is going to look like we gave them a tiny little sad face. It's going to make them look really grouchy. But to tilt this up on the sides, we're going to add a U, so it looks kind of like they have a cat mouth or like a big wave here. And we're going to do something similar on the bottom, but instead of adding this whole detail, we're going to go below this and we're going to mirror the rainbow with a U. And that's going to show those lips are nice and pursed, but they still have a smile on their face. And we're going to start to go through, darkening that in. Really, to give them a happy look, though, we're going to push up the cheeks by even adding rainbows on the top. Those rainbows will help us show that the smile is so big, it's pushing up those cheeks, and it will make them look just a little bit happier. Now, one of my other favorite facts from this film is another thing that changed, which actually goes back to Buzz Lightyear. Now, Buzz Lightyear at the very beginning was actually not known by that name. His original name was actually Lunar Larry. And Lunar Larry was not going to be played by Tim Allen in the very beginning, but instead was designed to be played by Jim Carrey. And that's what they really wanted for that role, which is why he sounded like Lunar Larry sounds different, right? A little sillier. And that's what they really liked about Jim Carrey was the silliness. But they couldn't afford him, so they were looking for a plan B. And they actually went over to a different actor called Billy Crystal. Now, if you know Billy Crystal, he actually did not end up playing Buzz Lightyear, but the reason is he turned down the role. He didn't know who Pixar was. This was their first movie, so he thought it was a big risk for his career at that time to sign up for a small studio, so he ended up turning it down. The story goes, though, that years later, when Toy Story actually came out, he said this was his biggest regret in his career because he really wished he was part of the project. Toy Story was so successful that it really started to skyrocket this whole new art form being 3D animation. So when that happened, he called them up and he was like, hey, if you have anything else, let me know. And eventually they did call him over and they were like, hey, we got a new movie. And he was like, whatever it is, I'm in. And they were like, do you want to read the script? And he was like, nope, I'm good, I'm down. And that's how he became a different character at Pixar, which was Mike Wazowski. Yeah, exactly. So that's exactly how he became Mike, which was actually designed to be played by him. And eventually the character of Lunar Larry shifted over to Buzz Lightyear and was in fact played by Tim Allen. Now that we do have those lips, I just thickened them out with like a rainbow and a U. And anything else you want to give this character is officially considered extra credit. So if you want to play something in the background, you can. But the last thing that any artist needs is a signature. So find a spot on your page and sign your name nice and proud. And that's it. Now I would love to see all of your amazing drawings. So we're going to do a bit of an art show. On the count of 3, I want you to lift up your boards nice and proud. And I want you to all say the claw. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3, the claw. These look amazing. Great job on the eyes.